Hey there, welcome back. So this episode might be a little bit choppy, but there's some stuff we need to fix. So let's dive right into it here. So the last time I put up a video, we added the concrete and the, licorice lock tiles or lock tiles or whatever you want to call them. There's a few things I forgot to do with those though. So let's head over to our prefabs folder and let's take a look at the concrete tile. I did this off camera. I shouldn't have, but I did. We need to change that tag to be concrete in order to be able to use this as a level goal. So if you forgot how to add a tag, I'm just going to go here to the tag menu, choose add tag, and then we have all of these tags. I'm going to create another one today for the equivalent of the chocolate tiles we're going to make. And I'm going to call that tag chocolate. Save it. Once you save it though, it hasn't been assigned to the object yet, so you have to go back to the object you wanted to assign it to and then choose that new tag from the list. So we need to make sure that we have that on all of our tiles. We don't have to do it for the licorice lock tile though, because for all intents and purposes this functions as a breakable tile, except that we can't swipe in or out of that, and that's something that got covered in that lesson. Okay, and now the next thing we need to fix is going to be inside of our base game scripts. We want to take a look at the board script. So go ahead and open that up. Okay, cool. So one thing I forgot to do, and let me actually just run the game here really fast, is when I created this concrete tile, I think I called it the icing tile, I forgot to make sure that when we fill the board and when we refill the board and when we collapse columns, that we aren't collapsing columns into those pieces. So here it didn't go there when the board was filled, but if I do anything at all to trigger the refill, you see that giant section over here that just fell. What happened was those pieces were falling into here, and they now exist underneath, which can cause all sorts of problems. So let's fix that first. If I jump back in here, the first method I want to take a look at is the decrease row coroutine. So in here, we're checking to see, we're doing our double for loop, and we're checking to see if something isn't in the blank spaces and if it's null. But we need to also add some new exceptions to this. So the first exception I'm going to use is going to be for that concrete tiles. So I'm just going to add and not concrete tiles ij. By having it be, I could say and concrete tiles ij equals null, but if I just add this not that, the logic of C# is that it means if this two-dimensional array is null. So that's going to make it so it won't collapse into it, but we also want to make it so that it doesn't refill into it. So to do that, I'm going to go to my refill board method, and I'm going to make the exact same condition in that first if statement after my double for loop. So not blank spaces and not concrete tiles ij. I don't know why I put a space there. Okay, cool. So now if I save this and pop back into Unity, no, stop that. That's okay. And hit play, then I should be able to see that to start with, my concrete isn't covering a game piece. So there we go. And if I do something to trigger a refill, these didn't collapse into it. And when the board refilled, it didn't refill these spaces. These spaces are still blank. And all of the logic should still work just fine. See, the pieces still collapse down. And there's the next thing we need to fix. So what just happened here is my board was deadlocked, which meant that it needed to reshuffle itself. and it reshuffled itself by putting pieces underneath where they shouldn't. So let's fix that now. So jumping back into Visual Studio here, I'm going to scroll down to, I want to take a look, and let's just kind of review how this whole is deadlocked method works, and also the shuffleboard. Let's do shuffleboard first. So shuffleboard, just to remind you, we wait a small amount, create a list of all the game objects, and add every piece on the board to it. Then we wait another small amount, we do a double for loop. Here it's checking to see if not blank spaces. Well, I need to check and make sure that it's also not concrete tiles, IJ, so that I'm not reshuffling them into a space that I shouldn't. And then, okay, cool. Just to finish this out, we pick a number, we start our iterations at 0 so that we don't end up with an infinite while loop. We decide what our piece is, we check to see if there's a match there. If there is, we increase the max iterations and try again. We keep doing that until we find a piece that doesn't have a match. And then we instantiate that piece, give it the right column, give it the right row, and then put it in the array correctly. All right, so is there anything else we need to fix? I thought there was something in switch pieces. No, we're covering it by doing that. And then we've got our holder. Oh, okay. So this is an error that I came across that is relatively easy to fix, but let's go to the document camera so I can explain what's going on with the switch pieces method inside the board script. Okay, so taking a look at an example here, when I wrote the switch and check routine, I never really thought what would happen if I was switching with a blank space. So like, let's say that I have a blank space here. The board could read these 3 pieces here as a possible match, even though there's no way for me to swap these 2. And so it could read a match on the board when there isn't one because of those blank spaces. So what we have to do is, when we're doing the switch and check, we need to make sure that the piece that we're switching with is actually part of the array of dots. So we can, say if all dots, and then whatever we want to switch with is not equal to null, and only then will we allow the switch and check routine to come. I only ran into this once, but I think a few of you had some pretty wonky hints, and this can fix that. So back in the script here, in the switch pieces method in the board class, we have our column, row, and direction. My logic here was to take the second piece and save it in a holder. So column plus direction, row plus direction. Switch them to be in their different places, but never in here did I take into account that the piece that we're switching with needs to be part of our actual 2-dimensional array. So all we have to do is just add an if statement here. So say if all dots, and we want to find the other one, the one that we're switching with. So that's going to be column plus the casted integer version of direction.x, and then row plus the casted integer version of direction.y is not equal to null. And then I'm just going to take this entire bit of code and put it inside that if statement. And that should be enough to fix that problem. All right, so next, if I switch back to Unity here, a problem that came up was that I hadn't talked about the fact that you need to make sure that you switch your goal pictures. Since I changed the way everything looked, my goal picture still looked like the old version of it. So for me, and if you're following along and doing this similar to the way that I'm doing it, you need to go to scriptable objects, whichever level you want. I'm going to be messing around with level 2 here. And then when I'm setting up my goals, so for example here, I need 10 of this thing, I have 0, I need to make sure that my sprite reflects the correct one. So like if it's a blue piece, I pulled over blue 1. Go back to my scriptable objects here really quick. And then the match value. The match value is the important part. The sprite is just a graphic that's being shown for the user's benefit. The match value is the big part. And then I have my goal sprite for concrete, and the match value is concrete. This would be why it would be important to make sure that you change your tags. And actually, that means that we should change the tag for the lock tiles as well, because we are reading that tag somewhere. So let me do that right now. So in my lock tiles, I'm going to add a new tag. I'll call this lock, and then go back to the lock tile and assign that tag. Alright, cool. Now because I changed that tag, I need to make sure that the lock tiles get destroyed when they should. So I'm going to go all the way up here to my destroy matches at method in the board class, and lock tiles, lock tiles, lock tiles. Okay, cool. So that should be fine then. Alright, good. Now, the next thing I want to do is I wanted to talk a little bit about tweening. It had been brought up to me in Discord. I don't know what your actual name was, but a gentleman named Clover. Oh yeah, and thank you very much to Rich, who mentioned a lot of this other stuff. He mentioned the fact that I didn't put the concrete tiles in the decrease row, and that I didn't put them in refill, and that I didn't change the tags. I think you mentioned that too. So thank you very much, Richard, for doing that. And then a gentleman person I spoke with on Discord mentioned that one of the things that's dragging a lot of processing power right now is in the dot script. And in the dot script, the update method is especially taking a lot, because we're constantly checking to see if, or we're constantly resetting our position. So there's a few other ways that we can do this. We can do this only once, and by having an extra bool, or an even better solution, honestly, in my opinion, is to change the way that we're even moving everything to make it just a tiny bit simpler. And I can do that in a separate video, but if you want a challenge for yourself on what you can do in Unity, that was neat. Oh, it's still doing it. The asset in Unity that I tried out using, and I can go over doing that in a separate video if you want me to as well, is called DoTween. There's a professional version and a free version. You don't need the pro version for what we're going to use it for. You can just use the free version of DoTween, and then it's like, I don't know, 10 lines to replace all of that stuff in the update method about moving stuff. So I'll probably do that in a separate. But if you want a challenge for yourself, you can take a look at how you can do that using DoTween. Okay, so tweening. Oh yeah, and the next thing here. So if I hit play, when I added the concrete tiles, which are meant to be like the icing tiles, another thing I didn't even think about until later was the fact that if I make a column or a row bomb, so like here, if I make a column or a row bomb right there, even if I were to match this, this would destroy the dots, but it wouldn't do anything to the concrete that's in that spot. So let's fix that. The way that I thought about fixing it is in the board script. We have our method, which checks to see what kind of bomb we have. And if it's so we got color, we got adjacent, and if it's a column or row bomb, which is this one right here, match type 3, we make that actually in the find matches method. So if we jump over here to find matches, I want to look at check bomb, which is, oh, actually, what I need to do is here in the is_row bomb and here in the is_column bomb, because this is where it's finding all of the pieces that are part of that row or that column. So all I have to do really is just add another really quick check here. My find matches script already has access to the board script, so I don't need to make a reference to that. Instead, all I have to do is say, sorry for that weird cut. Okay, so because we're checking to make bombs in the find matches method, I'm going to add a quick little method in here, and it's going to do damage to either a row or a column of those concrete pieces, or the lock pieces, or anything else that it, well, actually we don't need to do the lock or jelly pieces because those get destroyed when the piece gets destroyed. It's the concrete and the chocolate like tiles that we're going to make. So I'm going to call this method public void. I'm going to start with bomb row, and this is going to take an argument. It's going to need to know which row to bomb, so int row. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through everything that's in the concrete tiles and the chocolate tiles, and essentially just give them damage. So I'm going to go through the damage stuff that I do to them down here. So I'm going to do for int I is 0, I is less than width, I plus plus, for int j is 0, j is less than height, j plus plus. Now I want to say if concrete tiles ij, and then so if it does exist, then I want to essentially just do damage to it. So for damaging the concrete, I have that down here in my damage concrete method. I'm just going to grab these couple rows because I'm lazy, and I'm going to paste them right up here. So these rows are just saying concrete tiles. Instead of being column row, it's going to be I row dot take damage, and it's going to take 1 point of damage. And then if concrete tiles I row dot hit points is less than or equal to 0, then concrete tiles I row is null. And I'm going to do pretty much the same thing for another little method that I'm going to call bomb column. So I'm going to copy this, paste it down there, change this from row to column, and change the argument from row to column. And instead of this being I row, it's going to be column I, because now we're taking the row as something that will change. And then same thing for these two. We're going to check to see if column I's hit points are less than or equal to 0, and if they are, then column I is null. So there we go. We've got our bomb row and bomb columns, but these aren't doing anything yet. I need to call them. So to call them, I'm going to go to my find matches coroutine, and I'm going to find, let's start out with the row bomb. So in the is_row bomb, what's happening in this method, in case you forgot, because it's been a while, like 30 parts, we have a list of game objects, and we're taking 3 dots as an argument. We're creating a new list of current dots, and then we're taking those current matches and we're unioning it with either a row or a column. We don't have to union it with the concrete or the chocolate tiles, which we haven't made yet, I know, because those aren't, they don't have like an is matched bool on it. Instead, we're just going to call board dot bomb row, and the row we want to bomb is dot one, oops, dot 1 dot row. So we're going to bomb that row, and we're going to find any concrete icing tiles, whatever you want to call them, that are in that row, and then we're going to bomb them. And we'll do the same thing here, only this will be for dot 2. And the same thing here, only this will be for dot 3. And then we'll do something very, very similar for is column bomb. We're going to say board dot bomb column dot 1 dot column, and then I'll copy this and paste it. So this is going to be dot 2, and then this is going to be dot 3. All right, cool. So yeah, that actually covers everything I needed to fix some stuff. So coming very, very soon is going to be some talk about the chocolate tiles. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. If you learned anything new, you can give me a like. I'm getting really close to 1,000 subscribers, which is the requirement for, actually being a YouTube channel. So if you want to share this video, I'd appreciate it. If you don't want to share it, that's fine. Yeah, have yourselves... Oh, yeah, you can find a link to the current version of the project down below. You can find a link to my Discord down below as well, and as well as my Twitter handle. So have yourselves a wonderful day.